All right, so last time we left off, we had built our create-t3 app using trpc, and we used Tailwind to make this nice display of the data coming back from trpc, which was pulling data from a feature service using the ArcGIS Maps SDK for JavaScript. I'm gonna get used to the name eventually. I swear I will. So now what I want to do is I want to make it so that I actually want to add a map, right? I want to click on something like nuclear, and we're going to change the URL to a map route and display a map, and it's going to show all the nuclear power plants, right? So that's our goal. See if we can get it done. Might be a little bit of copy pasta, right? Just kind of get through it because I don't think it's yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, stick with me here. Pay attention. Okay, so let me see what we do. So let's go to, let's look in the source folder here, and routing inside of the what do you call it? Inside NextJS is based on this pages directory, right? So pages in here are going to coincide with routes, right? So we have an API, okay? We have the main page, index page. Now I'm going to want a map page. I'm trying to think if I want the actual file or do I want a directory? No, I'm going to go the directory route because I think that's a little easier to do in this case. I'm going to create a directory called map, and it's just a little bit more straightforward in terms of what it is I'm trying to do. So I'm going to create an index.tsx file because this is going to be like my index HTML. That's going to be for my particular map route, right? So we want some pieces in here that we're going to be using. So first off, let's go ahead and do the export default function. Oh, come on. Where's my snippet? There we go. WebMap, if I can spell. Okay, so it's going to be a web map. And I'm not going to be taking any properties in this case for the web map. It's going to be coming from the data is actually going to be coming from the URL. So we'll get to that in a second here. So what I want to do, I want to just, for now, let's return section. Let's copy this here. Put it in here. Okay, let's get some more stuff set up in here, just for the sake of it, because I know I'm going to need some things here. So we're going to import some stuff out of React here. I want to get a I want use state. Right now, I'm going to want use state eventually, but for now, I just want use ref. So we're going to use ref here. And let's go ahead, since I'm already here, let's grab use effect here. And we're going to say that const map ref is going to be equal to, oops, a use ref. Yeah, it's going to be an HTML. Oops, wrong one. HTML div element. Yes. And do I need to say null? I think I do need to say null here. Okay. We're going to put that use ref down on this sucker here. This is where the map is going to go. And we'll just, let's put it back up here. We're going to say ref is going to be equal to map ref, like so. Use effect fine, but not use. Okay, so let's use it. So eventually, use effect is going to be used when the ref gets used, right? So okay, so we're going to load the map in this particular case here, and now I actually need to use this in my routing. So basically, what I need to do is, if I just come back to, let me save my spot here. I think I was doing this in the index page. There we go. No, so the plants list. So in the plants list is where I was doing this work here. So here we go. So here's the link. So I've got to update my href, right? So I'd update the href to an object. And that object is going to have a path name. And the path name is going to be /map. And it's also going to take a query object. And that query, I can spell, there we go, is going to take the another object. So I'm going to pass a query parameter that's going to be the type. All right, so we'll see what that looks like right now. So if we update this and we click gas here, it says map here, and it says type gas here, right? Perfect. So that's all I need to do to update that particular part. Now I need to get some other pieces in place here so that I can actually do the mapping bit and load the JavaScript Maps SDK, right? So this is where some copy pasta is going to come into play. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so we are going to go over here. We're going to go into utils, and I'm going to create a mapping file here. All right, so now if you excuse me 1 second, I do need to copy some secret keys from somewhere. Okay, sorry about that. I had to actually copy an environment variable into my env file and didn't want you to see it. So let's go back to what we're working on here. So I have my utils mapping file. Now this is what the file that I'm going to call when the map loads. We're going to pull a bunch of information out of here to create the map for us. And oh, look at that, copy pasta magic. So okay, let's just take a quick look and see what this has done, right? So you can ignore this forbidden non-null assertion here. Basically just setting my API key right here. I'm importing my map, the feature layer, the map view, extent, the watch from reactive utils, and then the expand widget, right? So I created a small interface here, and this interface is basically just going to be used for this little utility helper I've got here. So I have a map app. That's an object that's going to contain the view, the map, the layer, and then I'm going to save the extent. So as I go back and forth from the list to the map, I'm saving the previous extent that I was left at. Now, the cool part is going to be this init function, right? So what the init's going to do is actually create the map for me. It's going to take a container, and it's also going to go ahead and take a string that's going to be the filter. And that's going to come from the URL parameters, right? So type equals gas. And we're going to use that down below here where I create this feature layer. And we're going to define the definition expression. That's going to say that fuel1 is equal to, for example here, gas or nuclear or something like that. And that definition expression is going to go directly to the layer and only show that data. This prevents me from downloading extra data that I don't need from the service and just kind of keeps my app from being a bit chatty in most cases, right? And I'm going to create my map view. We've done all this before. So here's a bit here where I'm going to go ahead and create my, or set my extent from a saved extent, right? And if I have a saved extent, I'll set it. If I don't, I'm going to wait for the layer and then set the extent of the map view to the layer's full extent. That'd be the first time that happens. I have a small handler here that's going to watch for when view stationary and view extent are both truthy, right? So stationary is true and the view extent is not null. And then I'm going to go ahead and save the extent by using a toJSON method on the map view extent. Oops. And we're going to go ahead and save that to this particular object of ours here. And then what we got here is when the view is done, I'm going to go ahead and put the description from the portal item inside a small little element on the page, and we'll be able to click on it and get a description from the portal item, right? And it's just kind of something for the user of the map to get more information about what they're looking at. I just set everything up here, app.map, app.layer, app.view. I return a cleanup function because I'll be using it inside useEffect, and that cleanup is basically going to go ahead, remove the handler for the reactive utils, and then destroy my view. I probably will not be really using this too much because technically I'm going to be going back and forth. So I'll never be losing a reference to the page technically, right? So that's what this mapping does. Again, straight copy pasta there because yeah, I didn't want to have to mess with all that stuff there that we were going to do, right? So okay. So what am I doing here? Oh, let's go back to our map index page. All right, so let's do that. I'm actually going to mark that, so come back here at some point, and I should probably clean up all these markings here. So okay, so now what I can do is I can take advantage of that helper. So I need to do some other stuff here, right? So what I have my map ref. I'm also going to need a reference to the current route that I'm on. Okay, and I can do that using a function that is provided by NextJS router. Use router. Is it going to automatically bring it in for me? Yeah, there we go. So use router from NextRouter. And I'm going to go and use that router to get some information. Now, I also want to get use state because I'm actually going to be tracking whether or not the map has loaded or not, right? So I want to keep track of that. So we're going to do a const, what am I doing here? It's going to be equal to use state. And that is going to be false by default. Yeah, because it's not loaded yet. So I need a, let's see, a loaded and a set loaded. Awesome. Okay. So now what I'll do is inside my, let's get rid of that in the use effect. So inside the use effect, let's do a quick check. We're going to say if, I'm going to say, if not loaded and the map ref current, meaning that is going to be the reference to the HTML, and I have a query in my route. So r.query, then I want to do something, and that query is right here. That's that little question mark. It's query type is equal to gas. So it's going to create a small object for me that I could use. All right, so then I want to do something here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set loaded to true because now it's going to be loaded. I'm going to be doing stuff here. And we are going to want to initialize our map using that helper method that we had. So how am I going to do that here? So I can't do that inside use effect. I guess I could, but it's a bunch of promise chaining and stuff I have to do. So what I like to do is create this little async function every time I do something like this, and I'll just call this, I'll call it load map, because the function coming out of the helper is called init, so I don't want to confuse myself. So this is going to take, what am I going to take here? We're going to take a container, and that container is going to be an HTML div element, and we're also going to take the type. That's going to come from the query, and the type is going to be a string, like a spell, again. And what we're going to do here is I want to get the init function. I was hoping it would do it from my dynamic import, but I don't think it will. It is going to be equal to an await of an import. And we are going to be importing 1, 2, utils, and mapping, and not the TS file. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and pass the container and the type to the init method, right? So a container and the type. So now what I can do is I can come down here and I can go and say that after I set loaded, we're going to pass the load map, the map ref.current, and then the r.query. And I believe this can be any. So I'll pass type, and should just be a string, I think. We'll find out. See if, yep, TypeScript's complaining. So there we go. Okay, let's try that. Let's just start from the first page here. And oh, I know what's missing. I do not have the CSS from the JavaScript API in here. I'm sorry. the Maps SDK for JavaScript. My bad. Let me add that to the global CSS. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now things should work. Oh, I also have to let's come to the map index page. I need to get rid of this map here thing because that's kind of jacking it all up too. All right, let's go back to the home page. One thing when you start messing with the things here, things are gonna get jacked up. All right, I had lines here. I don't know what happened to them, but I'll see if I can figure that out later. Okay, so there's my map. I can now pan in pretty nicely. One thing I do need is I need a way to go back. I don't have a way to get back to my list, right? So, okay, let's see if we can figure that out real quick. And what was it in the layout? There we go. So in the layout, what I want to do is I want to do a little bit more work. And we are again going to do some copy pasta magic because we've pretty much done this whole layout page already once. All right, so we don't need to do it again. Okay, so what are we doing here? So we are going to go ahead and grab the router so we can do some information from the router here. Grab use effect and use state. And I'm going to grab the router object one more time. I'm grabbing the type from the router. And then I've got use state here for this show back button and set show back button. Right, so in use effect, if the type is provided, then I'm going to do a little, just make sure, just truthy it, right, using Boolean, and set the show back button to true or false. And if we come down here, I've got some stuff in the header here that is going to go and say that if show back button is true, then show a link to go back with just a little chevron there. If not, then it's not going to show it, right? So now I can go ahead and I can go back and I can click on wind. And now I'm in the same, remember I saved my extent. So I'm in the same extent. And these are all the wind power plants. If I click on these, it gives me information about the predominant value of fuel within this cluster is wind. Oh, here's a little description that we talked about before. So a description about the portal item of the layer. Now, if I scroll over here some more and we go back and I click on oil, there should still be some oil. Yeah, we got some oil here within this extent as well. Click on these and I get some more information. Okay, so I know that was a lot. We did a little bit of copy pasta magic, death magic, right? Just because it's a lot. I didn't want to have to go over every single line of code, but that wasn't the idea. The idea here was to show you how you could add a map to the route of your Next.js application. And you can use the router from Next.js to pull the queries from the URL and then use that to do something with the map, right? And then I can save the extent back and forth. I'm not saving the extent to local storage. That could be like another next step kind of thing. So when I refresh this page, when I'm on the map side, it'll pull the extent from local storage because that's like one more extra step you can go to do it, right? To kind of make this more of a fluid experience for users that are going to use this a lot. What else am I doing here? Yeah, so we use trpc to query the data from a feature service, and we cleaned up the data a bit and returned it as just an array of strings, right? So we didn't have to parse all that data on the client. There wasn't a bunch of extra work we had to do. I was able to just use the JavaScript API to do that, right? So if we come back to the router for the plants, the Maps SDK for JavaScript, I just used the query method here, and I queried the service directly using the out fields and return distinct values, 1 = 1, don't need geometry. Took those results, cleaned them all up, and then just returned a set of strings. Easy peasy, right? And I still use the same code on the map to do all the stuff client side that I want to do to display features and everything. So it's really cool. So we use trpc, we use Tailwind to make it look good. I've been digging Tailwind, it's fun. I used to have issues with it back when. That's fine. I don't mind it. I like, it's useful. It has its usefulness. Anything that gets a little carried away in, adding classes to elements, you could just use apply and Tailwind to create like your own custom class to apply to use in places here and there. It's no big deal. And then of course NextJS to kind of glue all this stuff together using React and everything like that. So it's a lot of fun. I had a blast. Hope you did too. The link for this repo will be in the YouTube description. So please leave a comment down below. Like the video for the algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks a lot. See you next time.